elected Sir Edward, as I had a distinguished doctor as my neighbour, it was understandable that he was the local expert on health issues. But one of the things that kept coming into my casework bag were experiences, particularly of older patients, in not getting the care they needed or the treatment they needed. And that is what got me going on this whole entire issue and concern. Now, it will be known in this in Parliament because we've had debates on this before about the East of England Ambulance Trust. And this is a classic example of where, at the top line, things were running fine. They were hitting their targets, they were financially very good, they were trying to get Foundation Trust status. The Chief Executive was awarded the Queen's Ambulance Medal. But at the heart of this all, the NHS was too slow just to rely on these targets as being met and forgot about patients. And as a consequence, elderly people who'd broken their hips because it wasn't life-threatening were waiting for hours for ambulances to arrive. And it's one of the big shifts that we have seen, but that's only happened in the last few months, is I'm pleased to say finally we got rid of the entire board of the Ambulance Trust. All, I'm sure, good people wanting to do the best to help guide the NHS Ambulance Trust in our area, but nevertheless seem to be satisfied with just hitting the targets as opposed to forgetting the patients. And with Anthony Marsh coming into play, I think that that is particularly useful. Now, I was referring earlier to the reconfiguration of services, and I've supported most of them, as my honourable friend will know. But there's one particular one where I haven't supported that, and that is on stroke. And there was a proposal to reconfigure the stroke services, which would effectively have removed any stroke services away from Suffolk. Now, any person who doesn't need to know a lot about medicine knows the excellent campaign that's being run again, the FAST campaign, which I recommend all MPs share with their constituents, recognises that you need to act quickly in the case of a stroke and you need to get good treatment. Now, we know in the East of England that ambulances were simply not reaching people quickly enough to help them with that first step of care. And if stroke services had been removed from our county, it would have been well over more than an hour in order to access the particular kind of care that's needed in order for people to have a good life. Now, we know with the cardiac services, by having treatment en route and then going to our regional specialist centre in Cambridge, people were getting a higher quality of care, and I support that. But it was this aspect of stroke that really concerned me, and that's why I was very pleased that the local CCGs came together and said, no, we're going to keep stroke services in the county. But they're not, I have to admit, our significantly lower funding per head means that has potential consequences elsewhere within the NHS locally, and that is one of my concerns, that we have such a different level of funding. Although we got a small increase above inflation, I'm pleased about that. I still contend that we should be doing considerably more to help NHS CCGs where we have a significantly higher proportion of the population. If I read out the constituencies that have the highest people over 85, we're looking at places like Worthing West, Christchurch, North Norfolk, and Newton Abbot. So largely rural and often coastal areas. By definition, often the places that are away from regional centres of excellence. And it is my concern that this funding formula did not address the needs of patients living on our coasts. Sir Edward, I've spoken at length on my concerns about what the NHS board hasn't done. And I want to just briefly say that there are opportunities coming through, and that's local innovation. The King's Fund report, Making Our Health and Care Systems Fit for an Ageing Population, I think was an important contribution to that. It referred to examples of local innovation. I particularly want to highlight one. I don't know how to pronounce this, I'm afraid. It's spelled G-N-O-S-A-L-L. I'm going to say Gnosal GP Surgery in Staffordshire, providing patients over 75 with an annual health review, and uses experienced elder care facilitators to support patients, helping them navigate the system and draw up care plans. Now, I think that's a good example of local innovation. I remember in a parliamentary question tabled to my honourable friend, I asked about the idea of bringing health visitors in for people over 75 plus. I quite rightly recognise health visitors are highly focused on young children, and that should be their primary purpose. But I do wonder if there's something we could do, and the Board of NHS England could think about rolling out this practice around different parts of the country, particularly where there's a high proportion of elderly patients. Sir Edward, I've spoken at length on this particular matter. I could actually speak for the entire hour and a half, but I won't. You'll be pleased to know. Because I think that this particular issue is something that gets talked about regularly. The Board of NHS England had the golden opportunity when, with the Health and Social Care Act, to step away from the political pressures and to do what was right for patients across this country. As I said at the start, I think they bottled it. I'm sad by that. I genuinely hope that they will come to reconsider their decision and to think again about the needs of the elderly. These are people who've served our country with distinction. We say that we don't want to be discriminating on age, and yet sadly the postcode lottery does seem to determine about where you live in the country on whether or not elderly patients get the care and the treatment that they deserve. Sir Edward, I know that this debate will not be settled today. Unusually, perhaps the government cannot wave a magic wand and just change the formula. It is for the Board of NHS England to do that. I hope again that they reconsider and that they will truly look after our patients. Frankly, that will be us in a few years' time, Sir Edward, and we want to make sure that we will have done our bit to address this particular challenge.
Right.